Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit of more unfortunate news coming into the week 1 of the 2018 regular season. We're talking about Carson Wentz officially being out for week 1 of the regular season. The opening of the regular season starts on Thursday. It is the Eagles versus the Atlanta Falcons. Unfortunately, Carson Wentz has yet to be cleared for contact and will not be playing in week 1. So throughout this video, I'm going to be talking about, obviously, Carson Wentz. I'm going to be talking about the implications on how Nick Foles should be treated in the fantasy community. A little bit of Ajayi and Alshon Jeffrey injury news. And I'm just going to talk about everything fantasy football. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. Happy Labor Day weekend. Hopefully everyone's out and about enjoying life. I am, and I'm ready to talk fantasy football like I always am. So, as I mentioned before, Carson Wentz has not been cleared for contact. Last December, Carson Wentz had his ACL torn, and an ACL rehabs at around 9 to 12 months. He's only just beginning to get to that 9-month period. So I think Carson Wentz might be out for more than just week 1. So if you personally drafted Carson Wentz in one of your leagues, I'm going to have to suggest, without a doubt, hopefully you have another quarterback sitting on your bench that you can go ahead and use. But if you're like me and you play in a 2 QB league, right, and you didn't expect for Carson Wentz to go down like this, then I have a little bit of advice for you. And let's say, for example, you play in a standard 1 quarterback league and no one's available that you like. You know what? I have a couple suggestions that might, pique your interest for the first couple weeks of the fantasy season. Because honestly, Carson Wentz is a great quarterback, but without him, the Eagles are going to hurt a little bit, and your fantasy team, if you have Carson Wentz, is definitely going to hurt a little bit, okay? So my first suggestion, without a doubt, because of Carson Wentz not being physically cleared for contact. Now, just to a little note on that, just that exact quote, Carson Wentz has not been cleared for contact. It's already September, right? At this point, if he's not cleared for contact, that means he hasn't been hit yet. How long is he going to take to get into the swing of things? Obviously, he knows the offense. He's very, comfortable within this Doug Peterson system. I think he'll be great when he comes back, but there might be a time in which, Carson Wentz might be out for the first 3 weeks of the season, which is definitely going to hurt a lot of people who drafted him earlier than they probably should have. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about Nick Foles, right? The king of Philadelphia right now, the reason that the Philadelphia Eagles were able to capture their first Super Bowl victory against the New England Patriots, right? Nick Foles came out in the playoffs. He was an animal, right? Throughout the 3 games in the playoffs versus the Falcons, they played the Falcons in the playoffs. It wasn't a pretty game, okay? They had only won 15-10, okay? Now they played the Falcons in week 1 of the regular season, and with this banged up Eagles, offense, I'm a little worried. Later on in the week, I'm going to be talking about a little bit of, start and sits for every matchup this coming week. So probably around Wednesday, you'll get all of my start and sits for the Thursday game and then all the Sundays and Monday games as the week progresses. But as of right now, if you don't have a second quarterback and you're playing in a deeper 2 QB league, you might as well go pick up Nick Foles. I think as of right now, if you're a Carson Wentz owner, it would be pretty smart for you to do so. There's probably guys like Jameis Winston sitting on the waiver wire. There's guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick. These are guys that, obviously Jameis isn't playing. Ryan Fitzpatrick against the Saints in week 1, that's a little sketchy. But then again, listen, I think that, Nick Foles is a serviceable quarterback, especially in fantasy formats. In the regular season last year, as soon as Carson Wentz went down, there were a couple games where Nick Foles looked a little dodgy. He didn't look great. 100% he didn't look great. But there were some games against the New York Giants, right? In week 15, he threw for 4 touchdowns, right? And 237 yards. That's clean, right? And then there was weeks where, against Dallas, they lose 0-6, but they weren't really trying to win the game. They were just, bullshitting for the entire first half because they had already clinched the number 1 seed in the NFC. Okay, so going into the playoffs, obviously we all know Nick Foles just tore it up. He tore up defenses that just, that couldn't handle it. Even Minnesota's defense, he annihilated them. So I think if you need a quarterback and you don't have a backup, Nick Foles is a serviceable option in order to fill that Carson Wentz situation. Okay, that's plain and simple. I'm sure many of you have backup quarterbacks. Go ahead and pick them up. Or sorry, not pick them up. Put them in your starting lineup, because for sure Carson Wentz is not starting week 1. It's unfortunate, but it is the scenario that we're going to have to go through in week 1. Okay, so continuing on, right? I want to get a little bit in, talking points on Ajayi, expected to play on Thursday, right? So for the last couple weeks, throughout the preseason, there have been little tidbits here and there. Ajayi's got a lower body injury, whatever, blah, 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 whatever that means. Whether it's a knee, a calf, a quad, an ankle, they're not specifying, which is a little scary, right? Because if they're not specifying, perhaps it could be more serious than we think, or we're perhaps just playing it up too much. Maybe it's really nothing. Maybe his pinky toe got jammed or something. I don't know. No big deal, right? So my thoughts on Ajayi as of right now, going into the 2018 season, playing against the Falcons in week 1, if he's healthy, I would definitely, go for it, play him 100%, right? But if something comes out where Ajayi is going to split reps with like Corey Clement, or he's going to split reps with Darren Sproles, I'm going to get a little bit worried, because if Ajayi doesn't have full control of this backfield, we already know he's not getting third down opportunities. They're not going to ask him to catch the ball out of the backfield, right? And then if you, on top of that, have Nick Foles playing and he's not playing well, first and second down is extremely going to be vital. If Ajayi is not 100% healthy, there might be an issue with this Eagles offense, and I might get completely smacked on Thursday Night Football to start the season. So I'm just a little worried on that. I would say just go ahead right now. Sub down below. Stay within this channel. I'm going to be sending you weekly and daily updates on these kind of situations. So just go on right now. Just right now. It's no big deal. We're not talking about anything. Just go ahead and scroll on your mouse a little bit. Maybe even leave a like, okay? Subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more content that you would love to watch. I can guarantee it. Just go ahead, check my channel out. No big deal. Anyway, just a selfless plug. No big deal. So yeah, going into the season, it's a little worrisome that Ajayi is already ailing an injury, but then again, hopefully he stays, somewhat healthy and is able to play this coming Thursday for fantasy owners. Otherwise, for owners that have like Corey Clement, I wouldn't suggest starting him in a PPR situation for week 1 unless Ajayi is really banged up. Okay. Other than that, let's go ahead and move on to our last person I want to talk about really quickly. I want to talk about Alshon Jeffrey. Okay, so yesterday, majority of the day was consumed with the Khalil Mack trade and a lot of the 53-man rosters becoming official. So every team had to cut their roster down to 53 people, and a lot of people here and there got cut. A lot of no names, a lot of guys that you are familiar with. But at the end of the day, Alshon Jeffrey had a physical yesterday. He is not going to be placed on the PUP list, which is the physically unable to perform, which would have had him out for 6 weeks. Instead, he's going to be on the roster. He's most likely going to miss the first 2 weeks of the season, coming off of that shoulder surgery he had in the offseason. So if you're an Alshon Jeffrey owner, if your fantasy lineup, right, has an injured reserve slot, go ahead and throw him into that injured reserve slot and go and pick somebody else up. Okay, go pick up another wide receiver that might give you a little bit of depth. Maybe if Alfred Morris is still on the waiver or Matt Breida is still on the waiver, go ahead and try to pick a guy like that up. Because Alshon Jeffrey, in my opinion, he's definitely going to miss this Thursday's game, and he's not going to probably be ready until week 3-ish, about that time. Probably when Carson Wentz is almost coming back, okay? Because, again, Alshon Jeffrey is another guy. He had surgery in the offseason, and it hasn't completely healed up. You got to have rehab on it. You don't want to force yourself back, especially with a team that's coming off of a Super Bowl victory like they did. They believe that they can go back to, the NFC Championship game, and they can go and compete for a Super Bowl this coming season. So they're going to take everything easy. They're going to wait the first couple weeks. So I, in my opinion, would say go and put Alshon Jeffrey, if you own him, on the IR list and go pick somebody else up. Now, if you don't have an IR list, it's okay. I would probably tell your commissioner to go ahead and change that. Just have one IR slot. It helps you with a couple flyers coming off injuries, a couple guys that You don't want to drop like David Johnson last season, right? He broke his wrist, but you don't want to drop him just in case he comes back, right? Stuff like that. Other than that, I would say the biggest benefactors of Alshon Jeffrey probably being gone for this Thursday's game would be Zach Ertz, 100%, because Zach Ertz is an animal, and probably Nelson Aguilar. There is Mike Wallace within that offense, but then again, maybe Corey Clement ends up playing a little bit of slot this week, this coming Thursday, and ends up being somewhat valuable. Until then, I'm Andrew Kirchhoff, and I hope you enjoyed this content. I'm going to be bringing this kind of stuff on a weekly basis, so please, again, subscribe down below, like, comment, tell me what you think. Are you in a 2 QB league and you don't have a third quarterback available? Are you going to have to be forced to play Nick Foles? Just let me know what you guys think. Other than that, clean 11-minute video, and I appreciate everybody. And until next time, I'll see you guys.